Mraz plays in an adult flag football league. These are all washed up high school wannabes that go out there once a week on dirt fields, rocky fields on Long Island, and think that they're still athletic. I know. I played a whole season with them. I was the same guy. And hell, they tried to stick me at corner. I had to be moved to safety because I had lost a step. It was like Darrelle Revis at the end. It was ugly. It was bad. I had to realize I was not 25 like the rest of those guys. I was in my mid-30s, late 30s. I know of their ilk. And I realize also that blood will boil, tensions will rise, competitive juices flow, especially for guys that don't have much else going on in their lives. So they're on the football field. And I always said, you can't take this too seriously, guys. So after year one, I walked away. Mraz continues to play to this day. And Mraz ended up coming in one Monday with a pseudo-black eye, bloody nose type thing.
It was a big gash across my nose.
Gash across the nose.
Like John Ritchie.
Saying, what are you doing? Oh, I got into a fight at my flag football game. You got into a fight? Oh, I got sucker punched. Wasn't my fault. Sucker punched. Well, who punched you? Oh, this big, tough guy, Mr. Six. Six is his name. So what's his real name? Six. We don't know his real name. It's just Six. So I said, why did Six punch you? I don't know. It was just a sucker punch. I went onto the field to break up a brawl, and he just sucker punched me from behind. Well, little by little, the truth came out. Mraz had actually helped start the fracas, jumped into this, and tried to pull off opponents from the fracas, which is a no-no. You pull off your teammates. He pulled off the opponents. Six got mad and walloped him. I, being the gentleman that I am, wanted to afford Six respect, so I called him Mr. Six. And I said, we should have Mr. Six in studio. This conversation had bloomed on their flag football Facebook page. And Mr. Six finally got wind of it and started trash talking on the Facebook page. And finally, after many times attempting to get him on that he said no, he finally acquiesced and came in. And Mr. Six had his revenge on Mraz.
So I turn around, and it's this guy.
And it's Mraz.
Yes, it's this guy, Mraz. So automatically, I started thinking, well, is he trying to pull me away? Or is he, because I was leaving my feet a little bit. He also needs to work out, too.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
Because the strength wasn't there, but it felt like if he was a little bit stronger, he could have took me off my feet.
Sure.
And so then when I turned around, then that's when I did swing on him. But it was more in self-defense.
It was self-defense.
On my end.
So he comes up from behind. You've got a teammate saying, get off of Six. You just see Mraz, and your first inclination is, let me punch this guy in the face.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. Obviously, he's my boy, but I think he deserves something like that because how is he known in the flag football community? Is he known as an agitator?
Honestly, I did some homework on him.
Okay.
And I want to say 2012, 2013, he played on another team. I think the Oilers maybe, or something like that.
Wow, all right, he did some research here.
Okay.
And he got into it with another player.
Uh-huh.
And from what I heard, it was a little bit more of spitting that happened.
Mraz, you spit on somebody?
I was talking very loudly and spit
God,
out of my mouth.
Are you kidding me?
That was a more immature me. I'm 30 now.
You Romanowski the guy?
There was a guy on my team on another team throwing elbows, and I got very loud in his mouth, and some saliva happened to fly out. I was about 24 years old. Roberto Alomar, all right? It's in my past.
He calls himself Algie Crumpler.
I don't know why. He caught one pass. and then he fell catching that pass and rolled on his stomach like.
Oh, Bilotti, is there anything better than Mr. Six taking it to Mraz in studio?
Oh, and you can tell the trepidation in his voice when he brought up the Oilers. And he said, "Oh yeah, that's right. He did some research on me. He knew what was coming."
Mraz knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
You were a spitter. You had gotten punched in the face by Mr. Six, and he clowned you. And so after this, I decided you guys were going to meet you guys knew you were going to meet that team, the small blocks, in the flag football playoffs.
Yeah, the division championship game would come down to us two.
And I said, I've got to call this game. So I got with my buddy, Pens, a buddy of mine from college that we used to call games together on student radio, and I said, we're going to call this game on Facebook Live. I was the play-by-play. Pens was the color analyst. And we went out to your game and called the game, the flag football matchup between your team, the Young Guns, the small blocks. And that became kind of our Football Friday. We were talking up that game. Monday, we had to discuss that game.
Pick segments.
It was incredible. And in that game, the Young Guns, Mraz's team, pulls away for an easy victory. Mr. Six ends up blowing out his Achilles in the game, writhing in pain on the ground. Ambulance had to be called. And I'm doing a sideline interview like Leslie Visser with Mr. Six as he is awaiting the ambulance. It was the most dramatic thing of all time. We had about a month dedicated to your flag football league in the middle of the summer, and I loved it.
The newsroom, like you would roll on a regular game and get game sound for the updates, was rolling on your call and putting cuts in the NFL folder.
Oh, it was just the best. You may have heard of a segment we call Breaking Bad News. We did it a lot at nights because Joey Waller would be one of our update anchors. And Waller had this amazing dulcet tones that I always felt makes everything, even bad news, sound good. He just sounds like the operator you want on the line if you've got to change your flight. If you need a refund on your furniture, you want Joey Waller on the phone. He has such great tempo. And so we started a bit where I would write a script of the worst news possible, and Waller would then deliver it and make it sound okay. And we had one segment of Breaking Bad News a couple of years ago where we simply could not get through it because it was so damn funny.
This message is for Joey Waller. This is Randy Friend, the controller at CBS Radio. Comptroller. Comptroller. C-O-M-P-T. We usually concern ourselves with...
Guys, turn on the mic.
Just finished doing this stupid read.
All right. I'm guaranteeing it this time. Here we go.
Oh,
Joe
on.
Namath, guarantee.
Pick it up there.
All right. We usually concern ourselves with making sure 7 radio stations are properly operating. But we've received your multiple complaints about a lack of plastic silverware in the newsroom. In fact, we've counted 24 emails in the last 8 days. And now we have marked your emails for spam. The good news is, glad we could be of help. And folks, the quickie explanation there is that I had sent a message to one of the men in charge here at CBS Radio of dry goods, if you will, and asked why we can't get a plastic spoon or a plastic fork as we could for years in recent weeks. And so DA got wind of that and decided to rake me over the coal.
Waller's been harassing our comptroller for plastic silverware.
Oh, that is so good. Forgetting about that.
Oh, man. Waller couldn't make it through it because he was reading the script for the first time, and he couldn't kind of put 2 and 2 together. Oh, I'm reading about my own foibles because you had told me that he had done this. So I wrote the script. He wasn't allowed to read any script until he delivered it. And then he was realizing, oh, this is about me harassing our employees for more plasticware.
He had spent a week in the newsroom yelling and screaming that whatever this guy's job is, he doesn't do it because he can't get a fork anywhere. And then we have him reading a bunch of fake stories. You hit him with that real story, and that's when he read it, and he couldn't get by.
Oh, man. And we used all the real names. Oh, my goodness.
As Bilotti said, that guy's not even here anymore.
Well, he's in Major League.
We'll cross him off the list then. Oh, that's great. When we come back, the bets. It has been a thread of the DA show for quite some time. Speedos, batteries being thrown, and hot salsa. The 5th anniversary of the DA Show here on CBS Sports Radio.
And this is ridiculous. It is a cornhole tournament fundraiser. Cut the
Let the experience wash over you.
DA Mraz, congrats on the 5-year anniversary. I believe this show has spanned 3 different time slots. I was part of the 6 to 10 slot Monday through Friday. I wasn't on Monday through Friday. I was on Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, on Friday. Tough schedule there. That was a really tough schedule. And the Zubaz music video, at first I was a little worried. I said, boy, it's going to be corny. I don't know. Remember, mine was, as long as we're on the air, everything should be all right. Again, congrats, and I'll be talking to you guys. Hope all is well.
Steve Moralia, Planet Steve-O, was on the Wheels of Steel many days during our evening days, 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We've had multiple iterations here on CBS Sports Radio. The overnight hours for 2 years, the evenings for a little over 2 years, and now mornings at about a year plus, about 14 months or so, 15 months or so. And we are celebrating 5 years on the air here on CBS Sports Radio. And one of the things that we have really taken a liking to is bets, on-air bets. You have to pay up the bet. We've had a number of very memorable bets. Let's go back to one of the beginning bets. Rangers, Flyers, Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, Mraz, huge Rangers fan. Kenny Brock, huge Philly fan, thus Flyers fan. And we decided to make it a real Philly-type bet. Winner got to throw batteries at the loser. Ultimately, Rangers defeated the Flyers. And so we put batteries, D batteries, inside a tennis ball because we knew we didn't want to break bones. We put them inside a tennis ball, and Brock had to turn his back, or actually he might have been front-facing.
He was front-facing, yeah.
Facing us against the back of a brick wall outside on the streets outside of our studio in the middle of the night, because this is when we did the overnights. And Mraz had 3 different shots with a tennis ball and a D battery in it to throw it as hard as he could at Brock. You should have seen the fear in Brock's face, which really should have made him not say yes to the crow bet, eating the crow. But Mraz got his shots in. This was not on the air, but we videotaped it and put it on YouTube. This audio is from YouTube. First pitch.
Oh my God! Thank God for my hands.
That was the money shot.
Hey, but
I need a second after that one.
Felt like David Wells getting up on that one. You're gonna break your hand.
So in that pitch, Mraz, you were wearing your Mariano Rivera jersey.
Yeah, I believe it was something like that.
And Brock is sitting there facing the shot, but holding his 2 hands over his sensitive region.
Yes.
And you threw it right at the top of his hands. Had his hands not been there, he would have been destroyed.
For sure. Destroyed is the right word.
But it hit the top of his hand, and that was him jumping around, trying to shake it off on his hand, and thanking God that he had blocked it because it was going right for the nether region.
Yeah, and I think what's not in there is I had like 4 more pitches after I airmailed him. Like, that was the only one that actually hit Brock, and that we ended up making fun of my pitching after.
Another bet was, of course, Mraz and a Speedo. This had to do with the Packers and Giants playoff game of the wild card. This would ultimately be the boat game.
Yes, the boat game.
This was the Odell Beckham on a boat game where Mraz was so confident as a Giants fan that the Giants would smash the Packers. He said, I will literally do anything in this bet. And Jolton Joe DiMaggio, Jolton Joe D. DeLuisio, named after Joe D., is a huge Packers fan. Packers end up winning that game. Mraz loses the bet. And so we decided since you said you literally would do anything, you have to be in Central Park in nothing but a Speedo. We will grease you down with Crisco and then pour bird seed all over you. This was an idea that one of our listeners gave us. And so Mraz was out in Central Park. This is an episode of Nomad if you want to watch this on YouTube. And we had Mraz walk around Central Park in nothing but a Speedo with bird seed all over him, hoping that the birds would peck him to death.
No.
Here comes the squirrel.
Uh-oh.
No.
You can't tell squirrels no.
They don't speak.
They don't speak English. They won't listen to you. Mraz is terrified of the squirrel that may eat some seeds off him.
Dude, I'll punch you in your face. Did you get Crisco on my phone, too? Come on, man.
Did I? Maybe.
Jay.
Jay, what do you think?
Told you, he looks like an everything bagel.
Well, it is getting a little nippy, huh?
My nips could cut glass, man. Stop. Joe, stop it. I don't want to smash my own phone, so I suggest you stop. Yo, it's so cold.
Now you really do look like Buddha.
Should have had a salad yesterday. I don't think they're coming. I think this is good. This stuff is so gross. Oh, and I put my hand in bird crap.
You should have seen the visual of Mraz in nothing but a pink Speedo, which I purchased online for him. He then decided to put a sock in his Speedo, but he's sitting there, sitting up like a toddler, and his giant Buddha belly is pouring over the top of that Speedo. He is greased up and has birdseed all over him, which we also had to buy 5-pound bags of birdseed. And as Jay Bourbon pointed out, he looked like an everything bagel. He is walking through Central Park around the fountains, and all these tourists are like, what is going on here? Is this what Americans do? And we're videotaping the entire thing. We are trying to push him closer to the Canadian geese so that he gets bit. Ultimately, Mraz survived. He did not get bit or pecked on by any of the birds. He didn't really stand still long enough, but it was also freezing cold out. That was after the playoff game. Our bosses would not let us let Mraz out during the month of February, I believe. We had like snowstorms and sub-zero temperatures. We were legally binded to wait until it was above freezing. So we had a day that was like 32 degrees or something like that.
I think the actual temperature, game time temperature, was 37.
But the video is epic. And if you're watching it at watchda.com right now, you're watching the footage. And Mraz in that Speedo looking like an everything bagel is just incredible. And finally, as you probably remember, because this was very recently, the Death by Salsa Challenge, which led us to the vacation, if you will, vacating the accomplishments of he who shall not be named, now named Huge Freeze. Because he who shall not be named... Because he who shall not be named refused to eat against Badlands Booker in this year's Wienership. We have wiped his accomplishments off the board. We have vacated all of his accomplishments. And so now he will only be known as Huge Freeze. But here was the day that he also had to eat Death by Salsa in the studio. Oh, wow, he's coughing. Oh, now there's spit. There's spit right on his chin, dripping down. Oh, that's a gag. Going right for the ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Right into the ice cream. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mraz will not allow us to play the entire segment. You'd have to go on YouTube to watch it because Mraz says no.
Wait, there's a black market for his audio now? All right.
Well, remember, it's on video, too.
Right. All right.
It's like Reggie Bush highlights. They existed, but they didn't. We vacated everything.
We took the Heisman away.
Huge Freeze had to give back his fat Theismann.
There's still no bulk eating, though.
Wait, he won the Theismann?
Because of his fat thighs.
Huge Freeze vacated his fat Theismann, and that's we took down the banners. We struck the record book clean. It did not happen.
DA Jolton Joe DeLuizio here. Congratulations on 5 years. I'm proud to say I was a part of the most entertaining sports talk radio show in the country. I'll never forget the Richard Justice night since, I booked them. And every time you tell the story, I cringe. Looking forward to doing more Italian football spots and breaking down the Bologna Warriors for the years to come. I know the show will continue to grow like Mraz's waistline. Beam me up, brother.
You got it! Jolton Joe D'Aloisio, one of the great hands on deck, one of the great staffers and members of the show, as James Ward said, one of the great cast members here on the DA show over the years. We are celebrating 5 years on the air. It's kind of amazing because CBS Sports Radio has gone through many permutations. The original lineup, January 2, 2013. There's not a lot of constants left. It's us, it's Scott Farrell, and it's Jim Rome. Those are the last constants left because the morning show was Tiki and Tierney, but also Dana Jacobson. It was TBD in the AM. Following them was Feinstein, right? John Feinstein hosted a show with Andrew Bogish.
Yeah, we got Bogish and Bellotti, 2 holdovers from that cast.
Afternoons was Doug Gottlieb. And then it rolled into originally Chris Moore and Brian Jones. And then Farrell, and then us. So the only things that have remained constant, Rome, Farrell, us, and we have moved time slots 3 times. So, we have been the great benefactor of all of the movement around here.
Yeah, when you think CBS Sports Radio, you think stability.
You think. So, through all these permutations, through all these changes over 5.5 years, there have been those that we have lost. We here on the DA show, we have lost some great bits. Some because they just don't fit the new time slot. Some because they didn't work the first time. Some because we just got bored with it. Kind of like the Oscars. Here's In Memorandum. And we're doing this. Let's play some snippets from some bits that we've lost.
That's DA's Champ. Planet Steve-O is running the mothership this week.
Big fan of
College football picks with a Philly attitude. It's Brock's Locks. Oh, Kenny. Here comes the Pooh Bear. It's the Mothership's Market Watch. Don't worry, we have you covered.
Well, then everything's all right.
Here's what people will be talking about at the office today.
Oh, now's a good time to check the radio.
DA presents the Water Cooler.
Very generous of you, my good man.
That's DA's Chump. Class is now dismissed.
Those are some of the bits that we have lost over the years. Mraz, you'll remember Night Lights, which was basically like sound check a little bit, but for highlights on the overnights.
Yeah, because we'd be coming off all the games of the night, so it would be like the 3 top plays or top calls of the day.
We did Market Watch, which, especially in the overnight days, was amazing because we had such an influx of these huge affiliates. Dallas, Pittsburgh. 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, 93.7 in Pittsburgh. Cleveland 92.3, 98.5 in Boston, KNBR in the Bay Area. We had monster affiliates, Atlanta 680, that were just pouring in with calls and with tweets and with emails, and our listenership was just through the roof from all those affiliates. We wanted to make a conversation or really a competition between the markets. And so every week we would boil down the information and the stats and announce a Market Watch winner. And those markets used to battle over that win every single week. That was awesome. The Champ and Chump, which I still get people saying you got to bring back the Champ and Chump of the night now in the morning. Maybe we will give that little resuscitation. The Water Cooler, Mraz, this was what we reset the biggest story of the day in the final hour of the overnight. So that was like 5 a.m. Eastern time. So that people going into work kind of knew what the biggest stories were, right?
Yes, exactly the whole point.
There was Tweet Beef, a very short-lived segment where I would take people that really were angry with me on Twitter and read them throughout the entire segment. And there were some very full stuffed, chock-full, angry tweet segments that we used to do. There was also Dr. Truth. Mraz, this was a very short-lived thing. There was a segment called Dr. Truth where I would play the doctor, and I would take something that I thought the people were hearing misinformation about, and I would be the deliverer of truth in the operation room.
Yeah, you did it like 3 times, then asked us, our production team, to make a whole bit around it, and you did it about once with the bit.
Yeah, it fell flat. I didn't think it could work very long. But you know what? You got to run some plays sometimes, and you got to be smart enough as a coach. No, that didn't work. Scrap it. Brock's locks, his college football picks. Remember how hot he was year one? He was so hot. He was like 30 games over 500 that people that didn't even listen to the show were tweeting about the segment just to listen to make money. People got rich that football season off of Brock and his college football picks.
I've never seen somebody hotter picking games in any sport than Brock was that year.
And, of course, the famous Kenny and the Pooh Bear segment where for Super Bowl 2014, that was Seahawks and Broncos, you guys were living together as we did the overnights, and we basically built a sitcom around you living with Kenny Brock in Brock's apartment in Jersey, and his, at this point, his shocked apartment mate, his roommate, that couldn't believe he was living with you after that.
Female, as I walked around in nothing but my underpants drinking milk out of the fridge, that was quite the image for her.
Those are the bits we've lost over the course of the DA show's 5.5 years. Now, our toll-free line is 855-212-4227, brought to you by Geico. Great news, quick way you could save money switching to Geico. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. This is so great. My career began really in full after I graduated college in 2001 from Syracuse. My first job at a commercial radio station full-time was in Fort Myers, Florida. And I was making $18,000 a year, and I was doing everything. Updates, production, running the board. I was also producing 2 shows. They had me fill in hosting. I would also have to staff the engineers. I would staff the board ops. It was just a crazy 13-hour-a-day job for $18,000, but I loved it. My first big market job was in Kansas City, and my first program director there was Matt Fishman, who actually tweeted at me today, DA, happy 5th anniversary. Only you can have a 5th anniversary after 5.5 years. Hashtag DA math.
Get him out.
And that's one of my biggest proponents in the business. That says it all about the DA show. After Kansas City, I went to Miami and Sports Radio 560 QAM there, a heritage station, which was awesome, the 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston, and then to CBS Sports Radio. After we've listened to all this stuff, guys, what is the greatest moment in DA show history? What is number one? Mraz, after all of this, what do you think?
I think it's still going to be Torg Bellinger.
You think Torg Bellinger this year is the greatest moment in our 5.5 years on the air?
I spent the last week telling you we have a recency bias, but to me, as I mentioned to you, it is so outrageous that I almost don't still believe that it's true, and I think you could be pulling wool over our eyes. That's how nuts it is. So of all the nutsiest of nutsiest moments, I think this year produced the biggest in Torg Bellinger.
You have already crowned it number one of the 12 days of Christmas this year, saying there is absolutely no way it can be topped.
Can't touch it, and I think it might be the Babe Ruth of the DA show, where like everything is always compared to him.
Yeah. Pete the Body Bilotti, having heard today's 5.5 year retrospective and having now worked on the show a number of years, what do you think is the greatest moment ever?
Well, I was gonna say Mraz crying over Jeter, but it's not a recency bias, but I still go back to Art Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Because it's just so odd that Art Garfunkel would be on the show.
That's a good
first
point.
of all. And it's a name. It's a name that was interacting with our brands and created such a controversial moment.
That's a good one.
Come on.
That's a good case. Andrew Bogish, the greatest moment?
I got to go with something that proves your significance to your listeners. I mean, the fact that a guy staged a robbery for the sole purpose to be part of your year-end special. Like, he committed a felony to be part of the show in perpetuity. Goes to show you the connection you've created. And that was early in the history of the show, too.
Yeah.
So the instant connection and the deep connection leading, again, someone to allegedly committing a felony And then you throw in the involvement of newspapers and other media outlets and actual police. I mean, I don't know how you top that, even with Torg and his long-lost brother.
Gosh, it's such a good point. I mean, Mraz, it is true. Out of everything that symbolizes the idiocy of this show, Will in Baltimore faking his own robbery and then getting outed by the Baltimore Sun.
And us having a meeting with bosses, mind you, to go, hey, next time you may want to make sure robbery is real before it's out there. Make sure robbery is real. It's on the air in live time.
How do we validate?
It's the most ridiculous meeting ever.
Can you FaceTime me into the robbery?
These are all really good votes, and it's funny. I could go with any one of those. Painkiller Pat still feels to me to be the most impactful because that's the only phone call ever that we have like 7 drops that live forever on the show. It is so crazy and so out there that he would be defending Detroit, but then also bringing up biblical references, saying that he doesn't even have a job, Damien.
I don't even have a job, Damien.
He is convinced all sports are fixed from a very specific moment, the 1983 National Championship game, NC State's win.
I can't even watch a sporting event without thinking it's fixed.
The fact that he also said that, well, he thought that I asked him how many beers ago did he lose faith in sports, and he said I said how many years ago.
How many beers ago? Probably 1,000.
And the fact that a phone call was so diabolical, so explosive that we kept him on for 14 plus minutes. If you think about 14 minutes in real time, that's one guy ranting for a quarter of an hour. I just don't know how you top it. I mean,
These are called you Damien.
And Damien multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times. Let's go back to the first ever epic fail. The epic fail nowadays clocks it at about 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, we try to keep it right around 2 minutes. Maybe 150, maybe 210, but right around there.
This is the first ever epic fail to finish off the day from January 2nd, 2013. This is the first ever epic fail. We don't know what it is yet, right?
Don't know, but I can tell you, me being the producer, I was probably terrible at editing it, so I have no idea what it's about to play.
And the duration is only 33 seconds, which goes to show you early in this, we really had to teach Mraz how to do actual
work. It was really
work.
lazy.
Even the DA show is not perfect. We know. Shocking. Here's the epic fail.
It's not all about the moms. You know, the dad's got to chip in and help a little bit. And, you know, this is a good way to kind of, you know, the kid gets up, you got to feed him or her, and, you know, it's got to be like a little easy transition to get the kid back to sleep. Not that you're going to put anybody to sleep, but it's nice for the father to have something to listen to.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate that.
I didn't.
Thanks so much. Show's been that boring the first hour, huh?
No.
Already, first hour.
That came out the wrong way. It really did.
Epic fail, you loser.
That is why you fail.
Epic fail.
A real stripped down epic fail there, Mraz. Did you do any editing whatsoever?
I think it was like a weekend. He said, you know, you're supposed to put drops in these.
I still don't know what it's about, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was that on the first night, Schwartz inadvertently called the show boring.
Yeah, well, I think you might have asked Schwartz, this is vaguely coming back to me, who do you think's listening to the show? And he said, well, Dad's putting babies to bed. He always comes back to the fatherhood with Schwartz. And, boy, boo, what a bad job by me.
Hey, I'm Peter Schwartz.
That's the perfect way to end off the show.
Craig Morgan and that fail. That was my first night on the job.
And we somehow keep failing forward, keep failing upward. We could not do this show without the support of our listeners. The D-Aliens have been so vital and crucial in us rising up the time slots. You guys have told the affiliates you love us, and for that, our bosses have kind of been forced in their hands to keep promoting us, even though they probably go, what? And so thank you, and thanks to all the guys that have ever worked on this show, and women. This show is about the staff, and it's about the listeners much more than it's about me, even though my name is on it. So thanks everyone that listens, and thanks to everyone that has worked on this show. That's the 5-year retrospective, and the Mothership disconnects.